Welcome to Let's Be Well Together podcast. We're your wellness check-in team. Join us each week or when you can. We enjoy exploring wellness concepts and reminding you to make time for wellness. This is episode 133.
Hello and welcome everyone to a new week on Let's Be Well Together podcast. It's Elise Seifert, and today I'm joined with Julie Wilson. Julie,
Elise.
Hey, Julie. I was wondering what's on your mind today?
I came across this term. If I recall correctly, you and I had talked about this. So the term is au pair, and it was an article about au pair experiences. And I thought, this would be a great topic for Elise and I to talk about. But first, I think it's important we figure out, what is an au pair? I have no idea. What is it?
Great question. I know often you hear it in maybe TV shows or movies, but an au pair is someone who's from a foreign country and they come to live and work for a host family. And typically the au pair will take on responsibilities such as childcare and maybe a bit of housework. And they receive a monetary allowance or maybe some other type of payment while they're living with the host family.
Oh, interesting. I believe you said that was an experience that you were able to do when you were younger?
I did, yes. So I was an au pair in both Germany and England. In 2009, I would have been 18 at the time.
Oh my gosh, how exciting. Was that like the first sort of major travel that you would have done?
It was. So I had just spent the year in Europe studying there. I was studying in England. And I thought, when am I going to have this opportunity to be here in Europe again? Maybe I'm going to try to make the most of it and spend the rest of my summer here. And I found an online website where you match up with families. So I signed up as an au pair, and then the families have to pay in order to be on the website. And they're kind of looking, it's almost like a dating app, but early websites. So they match up with different au pairs. They ask you some questions. You kind of do some interview processes through that website. And then they set up the flight for you. So the family from Germany paid for my flight to come over. And my responsibilities were to take care of their 10 and 12-year-old. It was a single working mother who had hired me.
Oh my gosh, that is fantastic.
It was great. I would get them after school. She really wanted me to focus on speaking English with the children to help with their English abilities. And then throughout the day, she would leave me little odd jobs around the house, like vacuuming, cleaning bathrooms, or ironing, those kind of jobs.
That is so fun. Did you find the children were very responsive to you speaking English and being part of the family? Like, did you feel like you became part of the family?
I definitely did, especially at first. I think they were just really excited to have me there. So they were sharing a lot with me. And the younger daughter, who was 10, decided to take it upon herself to teach me German. She was working with me on German, although, we didn't have any formal textbook that we were following or anything. So it was really just up to her to decide what she wanted to teach me. So I don't think I retained a ton, but just a few little words here and there, which was a great bonding experience, I think. And we played a lot of board games together, which was great. And I think as time went by, the appeal of having someone new there kind of wore off.
Okay.
So it was a little bit harder to keep them engaged, but we found different ways to connect. I know the older daughter was a big fan of Twilight. So she and I were reading a version of Twilight that was written from Edward's perspectives to try to keep that connection going. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, neat. So how long were you there then in Germany?
So I was there 2.5 months total, but there was a month gap in between there that I had to fill because the girls were going to Ireland with their father. So they were going on a horseback riding trip in Ireland with their father for a month.
Okay.
I think that was the month of July. So I was there May, June. July, I had a month-long gap where I just happened to know a family through a family friend back in Canada. They knew a family who lived in England who was looking for a bit of help at that time.
Oh, so you were able then to fly back to England, spend the month of July in England,
and then I went back for a couple weeks in August and then back home to Canada to get ready for the new school year. Yes.
Awesome.
That family in England, they had younger kids. I was helping out to watch the kids because the mother was planning a big event at the end of July. So she was a little more occupied than she typically would be. So I was kind of just there for when they needed me with the kids, if she had meetings or appointments. And I was also able to have 2 free train tickets to London a week through my pay for that job. So I spent a ton of time exploring all of the museums in London. I saw a lot of musicals. It was a really fantastic experience. And I think it helped me to really fall in love with London. It's just an amazing city.
I bet you want to go back all the time, right?
All the time. And I would always tell myself, oh, I'm going back for sure. I'll be back all the time. I haven't been back.
I know. Oh my gosh. So would you recommend that experience to others like of a similar age? Like, were you ready at 18? Was that too young?
I think I was ready in the sense that I had been exploring in Europe for the year. I definitely was feeling very independent. I just think I wasn't ready, I think, to take on the initiative that I wish I would have taken on when in that role. I think it would have been great for me to take more initiative with the kids I was working with. Whereas at that time, I think you're very much still in a mindset where, you do what you're told. And if you're not told to do something, you don't know to do it. So I think,
right. I get it.
If I wasn't told this is a part of your role, I don't think I knew that I should start doing that. So just that kind of life experience, I think would have helped a lot. But I would definitely recommend it to others. I think it taught me so much. And it was really the first time I was traveling alone.
Yes.
So that was a really unique experience because anytime I did have off days in Germany or in England, I was by myself, whereas spending the year in Europe before, I would always be traveling with friends. And I think traveling by yourself is an incredible experience. Highly would recommend it.
Well, you have to look out. You're basically looking out for everything, right? So like paying for things on your own, looking after your own clothes, your food. Like I agree with you. It's an incredible experience if you get the opportunity to travel by yourself. But just having a family there is a little bit of a buffer that, there's that little bit of a safety net there that's sort of a good introduction to wider travel experiences, right?
Exactly. And I know there were some really unique opportunities available through the au pair website. There were a lot of families who would, let's say, they're maybe from England, but they're like, we're spending the whole summer in Italy. So we want you to come with us to travel in Italy. So there were a lot of really cool experiences available. I do remember being so nervous getting on that plane to Germany because I thought, I've only met this family online. Like, what if this doesn't work out?
Oh my gosh, I never thought about that, right? That you get off the plane and it's like, I've never met these people before.
What if they're not who they say they are? So I was really lucky that everything worked out. But I think that's something to be cautious of. I think the thing that really helped me to feel comfortable about the situation was knowing that the families did have to pay in order to be a part of the website.
Right. There is probably that interview buffer. But I agree with you. That is nerve-wracking. So good for you for taking that on. In the end, what an incredible experience.
It was an incredible experience. And I am really grateful that I took that opportunity while I was in Europe because, like I said, I've never been back to London and it was such an amazing experience. And you always think, I'll make it back there, but you just really have to seize the opportunity when you have it.
Exactly. That's awesome. I think I'd like to be an au pair now.
Yes. I think it'd be great.
I'm at a different stage right now, but it sounds so exciting and a great way to experience different places.
Guests are giving their time, expanding our minds. Today's interview is in the category of environmental wellness. And instead of having an outside guest, I'm talking to my wife, who's one of the podcast hosts, Sheila Webster. Welcome, Sheila.
Hi, John.
The interview flows from a discussion that we had, and here's the context. When I was thinking about wellness and how to improve my own wellness and that of everyone else, I started to think more and more about the environment. And that's why it's one of the 8 areas that's on my wellness wheel. And then over the course of time on the podcast, we've done lots of what's on your minds, where we say, hey, here's an article with 8 things you can do to help the environment, or 5 things or whatever. And we were talking the other day and realized, you know what? Since we've had this focus on the environment and always thinking about it, we've made some real changes in our life. And these are things that almost anybody can do. We thought it would be kind of fun to go through it. So I asked Sheila to think about, for her, what are some of the things that she's changed now that she has this increased focus on the environment. So in other words, today we're going to find out where the rubber hits the road when it comes to this stuff. Hey, Sheila, so why don't you start just kind of going through some of the things that you either changed or maybe you appreciate more, that we think more about the environment?
Yeah, like I think the podcast has really inspired me personally to start thinking more about the environment, especially Tova's interviews that we had.
For context, that's Tova Davidson of Sustainable Waterloo Region.
I thought as Canadians, we're very good environmentally, and we're not.
Well, yeah, because Tova said on one of the interviews that I think we're the worst of the G7 countries for carbon emissions. I think maybe for vehicles. I can't remember. But it was bad.
It was bad. So I thought, my goodness, we have to fix our own backyard type of attitude. So we've been working hard at it. And my number one change is the car. We have been working hard for the last 6 months, I would say, of trying to decide whether we could go down to one car. And we finally did.
Let me spar with you a little bit on working hard. It's not as hard work as we thought.
True. It's not as hard work.
It's more like we've been focusing, or, we've actually had to go out of our way to try things to see if it'll work.
Right. Like we had to try and pretend we only had one car.
Right.
To make sure that we could do it.
Yeah, no, I guess all I'm trying to say is a lot of the things that I think we're going to go through and talk about today, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
But it needs a focus.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a real relief for me to go down to one car too, for lots of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been an interesting experience. So yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I just didn't like having that car sitting there doing nothing, because we literally had at least one car sitting doing nothing, and that's not good for a car.
Because we were just kind of pretending we didn't own it. So it just sat there.
Yeah. So now we're down to one car, and we still actually don't use the car every day. I bike to work, you walk to work, use public transportation. And that's another thing that we've done environmentally to help.
I was talking to one of our local politicians and letting them know that this has happened. And they said, oh, you're kind of like what your government's trying to steer people towards, which is you have a car for kind of special events, but for the most part, you're not using your car every day.
Yes. And I try to do that every day. At least think about it. Do I need the car? Can I bike there? Can I bike to the gym? Can I bike to the grocery store? Can I walk to the grocery store? I bike to work every day. And as long as it's not raining out, it doesn't matter if the weather says that it's going to rain that day. It doesn't matter if it's not rain. When I go out the door, I bike to work.
And hopefully as the city makes more protected bike lanes, more and more people will feel comfortable doing that. And then you get the active transportation that's great for the physical health too. So yeah, no, that's a good one. What else is on your list?
So the laundry strips.
Yeah, that's a cool one.
Mm-hmm. So there's a few things that we've done, cleaning supplies, that I thought were really awesome. But these laundry strips, I'm really enjoying.
And this came directly from one of the articles we went over on one of the podcast episodes.
And Elise said that she did this. So we were like, hey, we should try it. And we've tried different ones with different smells. I love the fact that you can cut them. So if you have a small load or a big load.
We should probably tell people what you're talking about.
Okay.
Normally, for years and years, we've used liquid laundry detergent. Get a big jug, takes up a whole bunch of cupboard space. And then there's a big thing of plastic to throw out in the end that's recyclable, but still. But instead of all that liquid, basically they're little pieces of paper. So you buy little pieces of paper, and like Sheila said, you can cut them into smaller pieces.
Not only that, I also find them much easier to travel with, because I used to use like either the powder or, the little liquid, and they're hard to travel with. These, I cut them into little squares so that I had almost individual laundry strips that I could use if I wanted to just do a little bit of laundry while we were traveling. And I thought that was amazing. I definitely used it on my yoga trip because I only brought 2 pairs of yoga clothes. So I wanted to make sure that every day I could wash my one so that it would dry while I'm using the other.
That reminds me of one we haven't tried yet, but I want to try. Elise was talking about bars of shampoo and conditioner.
Yeah.
So maybe we can try and figure that one out.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else?
Well, reusable Swiffers mop, can wash it, and I love it. Non-stick silicone bake mats.
For a long time, I was doing a lot of baking.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of using the parchment paper, I can't remember what you call it.
Parchment paper, yeah.
Instead of using that, I thought, you know what? I'm going to get some reusable baking sheets. And they come in so handy. We use them all the time.
All the time. Love them.
And actually, that reminds me too. So I make bread. I make a lot of bread. As part of it, you have to let the bread sit on the counter for quite a while or in the fridge.
Yes.
And I was like, oh no, I'm out of saran wrap. And I was forever using saran wrap. And then I thought, you know what? I'm just going to cut a milk bag. In Canada, we have milk in bags. So you get this bigger bag to hold it. But you can use any plastic bag. I just cut it and an elastic. And that's what I've been using for the last 6 months. So I don't use any saran wrap. So again, just something I was thinking of to help the environment. And these are changes that are easy.
And another thing that I think I'd like to use while you're talking about things we'd like to do, the actual bags that the milk is in, my mom used to cut them and clean them and use them for freezer bags. And I know that you said that you did that. And I think I'd like to start doing that because why not?
And my mom did it too. Like it was a generational thing where people just thought like that. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a great idea. We should start doing that.
Okay. Add it to the list. So another thing that we do is use refillable hand soap containers.
Right. Because so normally for hand soap, you go to the store and you buy like the container with a little pump on it and you put it beside the sink. Mm-hmm. And instead of that, we bought physical refillable ones, nice ceramic or whatever the look is. And then you buy the big container and you just keep refilling it. Mm-hmm. So then that's less plastic going into the recycling.
And as well with dish soap.
Yeah.
So I bought the big one for dish soap as well.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So those are kind of the laundry type ideas. On one of our episodes, they talked about not washing your clothes every day, not washing it on a single use. So I started to do that more often.
Yeah. Like I don't know why. When I was younger, especially living on my own when I didn't have time to do laundry, I would wear everything once and wash it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I would often wear clothes once and wash it. And sometimes you do have to do that. But when I'm gardening, for example, I have gardening clothes. I leave them out in the garage. I put them on when I'm doing my gardening, when I'm cutting the grass, and then I take them off. And I just kind of hang them in the garage there. And then when they get really dirty, I will wash them. Things like that.
For me, a lot of times if I wear a polo shirt or a button shirt, I usually wear an undershirt, right? So I'll wash the undershirt, but I won't wash the other ones until I've worn them a few times because I don't have to. They stay pretty clean.
Yeah.
And jeans, you don't have to wash them every time you wear jeans or pants.
Definitely not. And I don't hang out in my clothes. Like when I put on clothes in the day, I go out, do my thing. When I come home, I put my pajamas on. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. So it's not like I'm in these clothes for 8 hours a day. I'm only in them for like 2. So that's something that I got directly from this podcast that I start doing. Cool. Which means generally we only do about 2 loads of laundry, 2 or 3 loads of laundry a week, which is really great. I'd like to talk about limiting the garbage. There's a few little things that we talk about in that.
So there's the famous 3 R's, and I never get them in the right order, but reuse, reduce, recycle.
Right.
What we're talking about right now is reduce. But I should say too, like I do a lot of reuse, especially like now in these days when you get Amazon boxes and stuff. I always try and think, hey, can I use this for something before I put it in recycling? But anyway, in terms of reduce, what are you thinking?
One is coffee. I like travel mugs. I don't buy the disposable coffee cups. Next, try not to buy things that have a lot of garbage. How much wrapping does it have? Making sure that if we're buying something, it doesn't have a lot of garbage.
True. And I think people who make things are thinking more about that now too, because people like us are out there going, I don't want that one because it's got too much junk with it.
So we're talking about limiting our garbage. We use cloth napkins for dinner all the time. We don't use paper towels.
Or paper napkins, yep.
Paper napkins. And you have started using cloth handkerchiefs. So that is really interesting. And you really seem to enjoy that.
Yeah. And I mean, on one hand, I told someone, I said, hey, look, I'm using handkerchiefs. And they're saying, that's great. My grandpa used to do that. So it made me feel old. But I actually did it for a different reason, but this is one of those things where you do it for a different reason, but then you appreciate the green effect. The reason was because I was walking to work, and depending on the day, I'm kind of sweaty, right? And I wanted just something to like brush my brow or whatever when I was sweating a bit. And then I realized it was great because I was also in winter, I was having a bit of a runny nose when I walked.
Yes.
And so it works fantastic. So now I have it. And then I thought, hey, you know what? Now I don't use Kleenex as much either.
Yeah.
Small thing, but good thing.
And it's really small because they're white. I just put it in my loads of white, which people are like, oh, well, it's laundry. You're using water and stuff. But it doesn't add to my actual
No, and they're small
laundry.
and they're fine.
Yeah.
What else you got?
Gardening.
Gardening. Yeah, this is a good one.
We have a lot of perennials, and you did a really great job of trying to get these perennials and thinking about what to plant and stuff. I do not water perennials.
Well, okay, let's clarify a bit. They do use water.
Yes.
But after a few years of experimenting, we decided, because what we used to do is say, here's what would look nice in the garden. And we would try and make them survive. Mm-hmm. This was in a past house. And then we got to the point where like, no, this doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't make sense to be out there watering.
No.
So when we moved into this house, we planted things where we thought they would work, because we know some like sun, some like shade. But then it was up to them to survive without us watering them.
Exactly.
And if they don't last in a certain spot without watering, we try and move them. And if they still don't last, well, we're not leaving them there because we are not going to be watering our perennials all the time.
And I don't use as many annuals anymore.
So we've really reduced the use of water for our gardens by having that approach to where things live.
Another thing is the appliances. We want to talk about our house in general and the things that we did that we appreciate now.
Yeah, this is more of not something we changed because we started focusing on environment, but something we appreciate now that we are. And so which appliances are you thinking of?
I'm talking about our refrigerator especially, because it's high efficiency and really great for keeping your vegetables and everything fresher, longer.
Yeah, I know. I think I mentioned this before, but when we bought it, the guy said, oh, this brand, they don't actually call it a fridge. They call it a food preservation system. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. But having said that, vegetables last longer in this fridge than any other fridge I've ever had, which means we're saving money and we're less waste there too. Mm-hmm.
Our washer and dryer, high efficiency, our dishwasher. So those appliances are what I was saying.
And the other thing that I really liked, we did a huge reno at this house when we got it. And we found out that there was really terrible insulation. So even though we were stretched budget, we decided, you know what, we're going to house wrap more insulation on the outside of the house. And then we bought high efficiency furnace and air conditioner. Also, I put in all LED lights instead of the old type lights. And it's actually very surprising how low our energy bill is, which means we're also not taking up as much as the grid. So all of these things that you can do, and I'm glad we did, are making a difference, and it makes me feel good.
Excellent. So the last thing on my list is eating in instead of eating out.
Cooking our own food.
Yes. So it's more energy efficient to cook at home because a lot of restaurants or takeout food are not made with fresh food. So it's processed, which is taking more energy because they have to process it. Also, the amount of people that are working there and the process there. And then if you get it driven, there's that as well.
Either whether you drive there or they drop it off.
Exactly.
What happened to us by a weird coincidence is that one time we lived in a place that was kind of in the country-ish. So no one would deliver to us. But now, once we moved here, like anyone will deliver, but we just never order food for delivery. It's strange.
So a few things I was going to say that I'd like to do maybe in the future that could be beneficial is have vegetables in our garden because we don't do that right now. Hang clothes to dry. I don't do that as much as I think I should. And the last one is maybe get an electric car.
That is an important one. It's just tricky.
So
because
those are in the
of
future.
where we are in our life and the car we have and when we might need a new car and where we plan to live and whether they'll have a recharging station. But for sure, it's something to keep in the back of our head.
Exactly.
I'm going to throw one more on the list related to food.
Okay.
Which is, I don't know why I like this so much, but I started because I was trying to transition to more vegetables than meat. And beans and chickpeas and those kind of things, lentils, are all good for protein if you're a vegetarian. And so I started cooking with beans and stuff. And then I thought, oh, well, why don't I just buy the dry beans? And it blows my mind. I buy this big bag of beans or chickpeas or lentils.
Yes.
Not very expensive. And it makes so much food. So it's more work because I usually soak them overnight and then cook them the next day.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure that that's helping too, because instead of buying cans of beans and stuff, there's one plastic bag that goes in recycling and it lasts, a month or 2 months or whatever.
It was definitely on the list of reuse, recycle, like no waste. So that is awesome.
Yeah. And I'm really enjoying having that food accessible. What I tend to do is make it on Sundays and then I can eat it at lunch throughout the week or add it to something. It's been a lot of fun too. Got anything else on your list?
That is it.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. So the idea is, it's just a really great feeling that we're having right now. And everyone can do it. Just when you start paying more attention to what will this do to the environment, you start making a lot of positive changes in your life, ways that real people like us can make a difference, especially if all of us are doing it together, and it makes us feel great. So I just told you off tape that I was going to ask you the question we ask every guest because it's the end of the interview. And you're like, what? Which is hilarious because you listen to every podcast.
I know, but I didn't think you were going to ask me the question.
Okay, Sheila. Well, our podcast is about wellness and we explore many areas of wellness. And we know that we can't keep them all going at any given time. So we do a mini wellness check-in. So Sheila, are you currently neglecting an area of wellness in your life? And if so, can you think of even one thing you could do to foster wellness in that area? Gotcha.
It's like, oh my gosh, because I think of wellness a lot, almost all the time.
Okay, well, you don't have to think of it as all comprehensive. Think of one thing.
Well, the one thing that I would like to improve on my life is when I work, I get home, you're doing this and that, and then we sit down and watch TV. I'd really like to limit my screen time. I think that would help with my wellness, especially the TV. I find I'm not on my phone or iPad. I'm not at a computer for my job. But sitting and watching TV, I wish that I could limit that amount of time and do other things that could be more physical or reading more, writing in my journal, doing those kind of things that I'd like to make time for. And I can make time for it if I can just get off the couch.
I know. We've actually talked about that and we just haven't pulled the trigger.
Yes.
Because I'd like to do that too, because there's so many things. Even if I take an hour a night to do a few other things, it would be so much more productive.
Exactly. I think
and enjoyable.
Enhance our wellness.
Okay.
In lots of different ways. So,
well, the reason I'm balking a bit is because if you do that, then I have to do that too. But I will see if we can do it.
We can do it.
Okay. We're glad you're here and we hope you're making wellness a priority. Hope you're getting something out of the podcast. And especially for people who are new, you might not know that the podcast was inspired by my book, Accidentally Well by John Webster. It's available on Amazon, Indigo, Barnes & Noble, pretty much anywhere where you can buy books online. And this is my pitch for you to buy a copy and have a read. I think it'll enhance the experience of the podcast and it will also help us defray some costs because it's really expensive putting out a podcast. So grab a copy if you can. And in the meantime, enjoy the rest of the show. Oh, sorry, it's me. Am I?
Yeah. Just let me say, flip side of the coin.
Hello, everyone. It's another Flipside edition with Stephen and Elise.
Hello.
Today, Stephen, we're going to be talking about our adventures with pregnancy.
Oh, yeah.
So we're expecting a baby at the end of October 2024.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
It's a very exciting time for us because it's our first child. So it's the first time I'm experiencing pregnancy. And we want to talk a lot about this baby that's growing inside of me. It's so hard to figure out what to call it.
Yeah, that's something that keeps coming up is everybody is asking, do you know what the sex is? Do you plan on finding out? And for us, I think we've talked about saying, yes, we're interested in that. But in terms of names, I have no idea.
Yeah, I get that a lot. Like, have you thought about names yet? And I'm like, no, not yet. No, I haven't.
But we have a system for how we've been naming the baby already.
We do. So on one of the apps that I use to track my pregnancy, it lets me know what size the baby is through a fruit or a vegetable. So each week we refer to the little baby as whatever fruit or vegetable it is.
Yeah, so I think one of the first ones that we had was little poppy seed, I think.
It was teeny tiny poppy seed. Yep. And then I remember, I think really when we really started, it was a raspberry.
I think so.
the first kind of week, and we're saying things like, "Oh, I hope little raspberry likes dinner tonight."
And little raspberry doesn't always like dinner.
No, little raspberry did not. And it's amazing to see how much it's grown.
Yeah.
Through the sizes, because now we're on to a pear.
That's right.
So thinking about starting as this little poppy seed, and now we're already at a pear, it's kind of unbelievable. But it's a great way to refer to the baby, especially when we don't know anything else about it yet.
Yeah, so we've had little Olive, and that was one of the first ones where we kind of recognized, hey, you know what? That's a name that we wouldn't mind.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
That's kind of a nice name. And
it's a nice way to like test out little names for us.
And then there's some other ones that you go, little kumquat. That is not what we're going to name it.
No. Little peach. Probably not.
Probably not.
But it's kind of nice to give the baby a bit of an identity.
Especially since we can't monitor it and see how it's doing.
Yeah. Exactly. So it gives us something to think about when we're thinking about this little baby.
Which is on our mind all the time.
And I know for us, we do want to find out the sex of the baby, which is not something everyone wants to do. But I know for us, we always talk about how we don't do well with spontaneity.
We're terrible at surprises. We try, and then things just seem to go sideways.
Yeah. We're not often super spontaneous. We usually are big planners.
We're planners.
And I think there's only a few occasions where we've tried to do something that's, spontaneous, and it just doesn't work for us.
Nope.
So we're trying to stay as planned as possible. And I think this Fruit of the Week helps us to do that.
It does. Maintain some sort of control as well.
Please remember that we're not providing advice. We hope to inspire you to work towards balance, and we urge you to consult with qualified people if you need advice. The people on the show are speaking in their personal capacities. Their views expressed are their own, and don't represent the views or opinions of their outside contacts, their employers, or anyone else. We try to get things right, but we can't guarantee everything we say is correct, or that the things we talk about will work for you. Let's be well together, and let's be sure to do that in a safe way. It's sign-off time. It's John here with Elise and Sheila.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, well, to be honest, the last month has been kind of tough for me. I've been taking some medication that affects the skin on my face, and it made it all red and splotchy. It's hot. It feels like dried paper all the time, and it's painful. So even though it's not really like a severe pain for the last month at least, it's always been there. And I don't know, that kind of makes you tired after a while when there's something always kind of there. Well, anyway, luckily I'm so relieved because today, so I finished the treatment and it's going to start to get better. And today was the first day where it wasn't really painful. So woohoo.
Yeah. And you've been in hiding too.
And also, yeah, because I've been in hiding because it's embarrassing. And not only that, people look at you and you're like, oh my God, what's this guy got the bubonic plague or something? Anyway, so I'm looking forward to having more energy, to getting back out more, and maybe turning the Zoom camera back on again for my meetings and even getting back into work, which would be good because I haven't been going into work, which means I haven't been getting my walking in, which is, I think, affecting my mental state as well. So it's been rough. But now on the bright side, it was pretty amazing moment when we got to, with family and friends, watch Ben Flanagan, our nephew, run in the Olympics. It was just so thrilling to see Ben in the role he was born to play, an Olympian. It was incredible. So how are you doing, Sheila?
Well, I'm doing very well. I had a lot of social time, so that was very nice. Most people probably had a short work week because of the long weekend Monday. I actually had to work.
Boo.
So, yeah. So that was a bit of a drag, but I still got a good amount of social time in. Because for the week before, John and I didn't really leave the house, and he kept wanting to organize stuff and clean stuff, and I just had to get away. So I ended up going up to Sabo and Owen Sound and saw Elise. I ended up going to Alora, so that was really fun. And I got the house cleaned. And then this week I have 2 parties that I have to organize. So I'm getting ready for both of those. We're having Elise's baby shower next week, and I'm also hosting a staff party. So both of those are at my house, so I'm getting ready for those. What about you, Elise?
Well, I had a great week. It was very relaxing, got some beach time in, and an exciting part of our week is that our vegetables are coming in our garden.
Nice.
So we've been able to enjoy lots of cherry tomatoes. They always seem to be thriving. I don't know. Cherry tomatoes do really well for us. But this year, our cucumbers are coming in really nicely. So we're hoping to make some pickles out of our cucumbers.
Lovely.
So keep building up that crop, and hopefully soon we can get to canning and pickling some delicious things.
That's amazing. You guys got anything else?
No, that's
It for me.
Okay, well, lots of people have been away, and we'll start seeing everybody again soon. Thanks for listening in, everybody, and we hope to see you again next week.
That is it for today's show. Please try and make wellness a priority.
You deserve it.
If you feel the need to talk to someone or ask for help, please do that.
Accept yourself for the person you are.
So long.
Adieu.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye.